The door was already halfway open when Marcus felt that old familiar tightening in his chest. The kind that told him leaving would be easier than staying. The kind that whispered he had done enough and owed nothing more to anyone sitting behind him. Cold air brushed his face from the street outside the cafe, and for a split second, the noise of traffic and distant sirens sounded like freedom. He had nearly stepped through when a small sound behind him, barely louder than the clink of a coffee cup, made his hand freeze on the handle. It wasn't a shout or a cry, just a fragile plea spoken with the kind of courage only children seem to have. If you were standing there, one foot already gone from a life that felt too heavy, would you have turned around? Or would you have kept walking and told yourself it wasn't your responsibility? Marcus hadn't planned on staying long that morning. He had come in only to escape the rain and clear his head after another sleepless night in his one-bedroom apartment in Ohio, surrounded by half-packed boxes from a move he kept delaying. His life felt like a series of almosts, almost married, almost settled, almost happy. Faith, once a steady presence, had become something he thought about only when things went wrong. The cafe was warm, the kind of place where people lingered, pretending they weren't lonely, and that was exactly why he intended to leave as soon as his coffee was gone. That was when he noticed them earlier, a woman with tired eyes and a boy whose feet didn't quite touch the floor, sitting in silence that felt heavier than words. The woman's name, he would later learn, was Rachel. She looked like someone who had learned how to survive on little sleep and even less certainty. Her sweater sleeves were pulled over her hands, and her coffee sat untouched, growing cold as she stared at the table. The boy, Nathan, held his cup carefully with both hands, watching her the way children watch adults when they sense something is wrong but don't have the language to name it. There was a rawness to them, an ache that felt familiar to Marcus, like looking into a mirror of the life he had been running from since his own divorce 2 years earlier. As Marcus turned toward the door, guilt tugged at him for reasons he couldn't explain. Maybe it was the memory of his own mother sitting at a kitchen table years ago, shoulders slumped after his father left. Or maybe it was the quiet fear he recognized in the boy's eyes. When that small voice reached him, asking him not to leave her, it didn't sound manipulative or dramatic. It sounded desperate, the way prayers sound when whispered into the dark. Marcus turned slowly, his heart pounding, suddenly aware that moments like this were the ones people talked about years later, the ones that defined who you became. He went back to the table, unsure of what he could possibly offer. Rachel looked up, startled, embarrassment flooding her face as if her private pain had been exposed. Marcus didn't ask questions right away. He simply sat down, the rain streaking the windows behind him, and for a while they shared the quiet. It felt awkward and fragile, but also sacred in a strange way, like standing on holy ground without realizing it. Nathan relaxed a little, his shoulders dropping as if the world had become just a bit safer. Rachel's story came out slowly, not in dramatic confessions but in tired fragments. She had moved to town after her husband left, chasing a job that promised stability and delivered layoffs instead. Bills stacked up, the car needed repairs, and the apartment they shared felt emptier every day. Church had once been her anchor, but shame kept her away now, the feeling that she had failed at the life she was supposed to have. Marcus listened, recognizing his own doubts woven through her words, the same questions about where God goes when everything falls apart. Over the next hour, something shifted. Marcus offered to walk them home when the rain slowed, and on that short walk he felt a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He didn't fix their problems, didn't suddenly become a hero. He simply showed up. In the days that followed, he found himself checking in, helping with small things, like rides to school or fixing a leaky sink. Each act felt like a step back toward the man he used to be, the one who believed love was an action, not a feeling. Rachel began to smile again, cautiously at first, as if afraid it might break. Nathan talked more, his laughter filling the spaces that had once felt hollow. Marcus started attending church again, sitting in the back pew, listening to sermons about grace and second chances that felt written just for him. He realized how close he had come to walking away from not just them, but from his own redemption. What if he had ignored that voice and chosen the easier path? What kind of man would he have been then? Months passed and life remained imperfect, but it was no longer empty. Rachel found steady work. Marcus unpacked his boxes. Faith returned quietly, like dawn after a long night, not loud or dramatic, but steady and real. There were moments of doubt, moments when old fears resurfaced, but now they faced them together, not as people who needed saving, but as people who had chosen not to leave. One evening, as they sat on a park bench watching Nathan play, Marcus understood that the smallest moments often carry the greatest weight. He had thought he was being asked to stay for them, but in truth, staying had saved him too. Sometimes the miracle isn't that everything gets better all at once, but that someone decides not to walk away. Before the story ends, share in the comments what you would have done if you were in Marcus's place, and whether a single moment ever changed the direction of your life. If this story reached something tender inside you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, so more hearts can be reminded that second chances often begin with the courage to stay.